My whole life, people have said, so it comes super easy, right? Being an amazing musician? I mean, your parents are the muse of eloquence and the god of poetry and song, so you just breathe this stuff, right? Well, kind of. The inside of my head is a jumble of sounds. Sometimes they make sense before I'm singing and playing, and other times they don't. There are days when I'm afraid to stop singing because the noise is so loud it feels like my head will explode. Even when it isn't that bad, I can't usually hear my thoughts. At the best of times, other people talking to me are background noise to the melodies in my mind. So the music comes easy and everything else is hard. And then I met Eurydice. The world is full of cliches about, I saw them and the world went still. But I swear, the first time she said, hello, the inside of my head was actually quiet. That had never happened before. I could really hear her. The things she said actually mattered because I actually knew what they were and could differentiate them from the ongoing noise of constant overlapping inspirations. She wondered if it's because her family started off in the deep woods and some sort of silence primordial of the ancient forest came with her. I think it was just how she was. It's kind of hard to say now. So a couple of years went by, Eurydice coming to every show, staying with me after and talking to me about, well, everything, really. It's amazing how little you know about the world when your primary interaction with it is pushing the noise from inside to out as fast as possible. She knew how to cook, where the best flowers grew, which temple was giving away roast meat this week after the gods took their portion. What I'm saying is, Eurydice lived. I'm not sure what I was doing before she came along, screaming into a void that could never be filled, constantly worrying my parents because I was a divine channel shoved into a mortal body and didn't seem to be able to make myself a hero like the other demigods. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Everyone agreed the day we got married was the most beautiful day they had ever seen. I sang to the winds and the skies, asking for gentle, warm breezes, and for the clouds to be pillowy and non-threatening against its azure dome. I'm not sure who arranged it, but when Eurydice walked to me, flowers bloomed in her wake. Flowers weren't usually her deal, but nymphs, you know? Our wedding is one of the few times I've gotten to hear my dad play. So listen, people make a big deal out of what I do, but on my best day, I might be half that good. Admittedly, he can't play the mortal realms much, something, remaking the world on accident, something. But right, this isn't the Happy Times story. Nobody's ever here for that part. You want to hear about me losing her. Well, performers play their hits, I guess. So how did she die? A snake bite. Why did a snake bite her? Listen, I wasn't there. I know she'd gone to visit her folks. So maybe she was just out dancing with Pan and the other nymphs. Maybe there was some hunter jackass. Maybe my half-brother was there. I don't know. I don't really care. A venomous snake bit her, and I was called. So usually I sing, songs. But when I saw Eurydice, there were no words. There was no melody. It was just a piercing scream. It echoed off the mountains. It echoed off the earth. Everyone who heard it mirrored it. Several people screamed their voices away permanently, and the sound, I'm told, even reached Olympus. Hades later said he opened the path to the Underworld because if I hadn't stopped screaming soon, he was going to have to completely reshape his realm to accommodate the influx caused by people and spirits screaming themselves into their graves. All the melodies and speeches that used to mash together in my brain were replaced by a litany. This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. She can't be gone. She can't be gone. She can't be gone. If there's no Eurydice, she can't be gone. What's the point? This isn't right. What's the point? Why is the sun so bright? This isn't right. She can't Hasn't be gone. It heard the light is gone from the world? What's the point? How this isn't right. Dare the flowers bloom without her? This isn't right. This isn't right. Why is everything so loud? If there's no Eurydice, this isn't right. What's the point? This isn't right. I really didn't even realize I was halfway to the Styx until Hermes showed up. He put a hand on my chest and said, "Listen, I know. But if you cross that river, I'm not sure you get to come back." I'm not proud of myself, but drawing on all of Dad's strength, I muscled the Sucopompos aside and said, "If Eurydice is here, I don't think I want to be anywhere else." It's easy to say, I want to be here and I'm just going there, but do you have any idea how big Cerberus is? I want you to imagine a large house. One of those places that you're not sure if it's somebody's home or like a tavern. And now imagine that that building is a 3-headed dog. And that's Cerberus. Turns out, he does not like living people trying to go past the gate. What does he like? Dance music. That dog danced himself right to sleep. I thought his snores were gonna bring the earth down, but that was decidedly someone else's problem as I pressed on to the river. Charon, the boatman, was entirely willing to ferry me across. Now you'd think somebody who never sees the sun and spends all of eternity around dead people might like really somber meditative music, but it turns out he's a sucker for peppy love ballads. Didn't even want my coins afterward. Great guy. I'd recommend his service, but there really aren't any other options, so good job picking him, aunts and uncles. Getting back in touch with the music had made some of the screaming static back away, and it was about the time I crossed the river that I really realized where I was. The Underworld is a frightful place. I'm not going to recount what I saw. Trust me, it's better for both of us that way. Let it suffice to say that the dead barely heard me. I plucked soft, soothing sounds as I walked by. Not quite a lullaby, but the kinds of background sounds you might recognize if you've spent time in a place curated for long, silent prayers or the sharing of thoughts, whispering an intent of just one more soul passing through along the strings. The music kept the souls at bay. It was all really creepy, but I was able to walk physically unbothered to the Hall of Hades. My uncle was not exactly pleased to see me visit. There were some things said like, "What do you think you're doing coming here alive?" And, "I think you've been listening to too many of your own songs, boy." In between these grandstanding statements, Persephone would touch a hand to his wrist, and he would quiet down, and I would say just a few words at a time. I'm just a man. Too in love with a woman to go back alone. That one seemed to strike a particular note. Eventually, he said, Many of those who come before me with their memories can't stop talking about your music and its power. So, impress me. I'd love to tell you that I had a grand plan to let out all the music inside me, that all those overlapping melodies spooled out one by one, and a great masterpiece was laid at the throne of the god of the dead. In all honesty, though, I played the first thing that came to my head, and it just so happened to be an old song of love that Hades knew from long ago. When I finished, a single shining tear ran down the lines of his face, and I slumped to the floor exhausted. This next part is tricky. The Fates don't like it getting out, so we'll see if you hear what I'm trying to tell you, or if the propaganda fix is still in. Hades was moved, very moved. He was inclined to tell me the truth. What was the truth? Well, the realm of the dead was made to house the dead. As the god of the realm, when the orbit of the underworld was closer to the living world, he could allow those who dwelt in the Elysian fields closest to the world of the living a brief visit to those who remembered them. These visits tended to be measured in minutes or maybe hours, after which they needed to be back in the safety of Elysium or they would become lost, wandering the asphodel meadows as shades with no memory of their deeds, loves, or accomplishments. You see, as god of the dead, Hades ensured the dead wound up where they were supposed to in the afterlife. This gave him no power to restore life. That rule was so ironclad that even his wife, a goddess, had to split her time between worlds after consuming the sustenance of the underworld. So this whole walk with her to the surface, hearing nothing, knowing nothing, and never look back until the light falls upon her, was Hades' way of saying, I don't know if this will work, but I can stop looking for a while, and if it so happens that someone who is supposed to be here isn't anymore, well, I didn't do it, and clearly she's not dead because she's unaccounted for, and that doesn't happen. I got to see Eurydice for the briefest of moments. I stretched out my hand toward her, and she smiled and took it. The noises in my head turned all the way into music, and then silence. It was like everything stood still and was wonderful again for just that breath. And then I had to turn my back on her and walk. Have I mentioned that the Fates really, really hated this plan? I'm still not sure why. They're not in the habit of explaining themselves. The noise came back the whole way instead of overlapping songs or static, though. I heard my own voice saying horrible things. Who do I think I am? Who do I think I am? Do I deserve her? Do I deserve her? What if I'm actually already dead? Do I deserve her? What if Hades lied? What if I'm actually already dead? I sure am thirsty. There's a river over there. What if Hades lied? Do I deserve her? And on and on. Walking into the underworld, I had been numbed by grief and outrage. The walk back to the surface seemed much longer, much steeper, and there were no barriers to music my way through, just more steps, while echoes of my own fears assaulted me in my own voice. And they got worse as I started walking up the long stair to the surface world. There's a reason Dad was always disappointed. I'm no hero. Dad was always disappointed. I can barely walk up some stairs. Dad was always disappointed. Sheevan there. I'm no hero. Sheevan there. I bet this is all a trick. I can barely walk up some stairs. Who am I? Dad was always disappointed. I'm no hero. Sheevan there. I can barely walk up some stairs. Who am I? Sheevan there. And I swear, I was out of the underworld. I did not turn back until after I was out. I found a way not to look back when the stairs switched back and forth. I held my hands up around my eyes and no backwards did I see. For all that doubt, for all that fear that I wasn't accomplishing anything, I didn't turn back until I was in the sun. I didn't. That was also not the deal. The deal was not to look back until she was in the sun. And how was I supposed to know if she was in the sun or not? And that's the point. Hades tried to tell me. He couldn't let her go. The illusion of help was the best he had to offer. I didn't much feel like singing at this point. I didn't much feel like trying to unsnarl the noise in my head. I spent some time with it, and I know I don't need to look for the silence anymore. I know she's waiting for me. But that if I'm going to see her again, I have to make something of my life. Otherwise, I'll just be a drifting, forgetful one in the asphodel plains. So I've decided to make my way sharing the truth instead of artifice. I've tried it loudly. I've tried it in songs. The truth doesn't really like being loud. Often it can't be heard that way. No, the truth likes quiet corners. Places out of the way where maybe not everyone is listening. Some truths are so hard to swallow that it's easier if you stash it inside a ritual, spin a grand story around it, and then slip that nugget of truth in at the end. And hey, before you go, make sure you're asking for something that can be given. All givers of gifts have limits.